Ark Survival Ascended is one of those abusive X's you have that you keep going back to because you somehow, through all the tribulation and all the problems, you still have hope in the end. This game has a few really big problems, and the best part about it is that I have these solutions. Okay, the first main problem in the game is the 70 pop server, 70 population max servers. This is a massive problem in the game. Someone that has come from other games of this genre like Conan Barbarians, especially Rust, not used to such small server populations. So many of the problems, again, derive directly from the population being maxed out on official servers at 70. Queuing into the server is such a terrible part of this game cycle, unfortunately. Even if you are playing, doesn't matter, 70 pop servers, if you're playing on big man tribes, small man tribes, does not matter. You will be queuing into these servers for hours in the first couple of weeks of a new wipe. It is absolutely atrocious. I have never seen a game of this genre where you have to queue for so many hours to get into the game to play with your friends. There has to be a better way to do this. I think increasing the population to 150 would literally solve all these problems that I'm going to state in the next few minutes. The second thing is, when there's so few tribes on a map, because there's only 70 population, not that many tribes are going to be playing on the same map, everybody is a target. Believe it or not, when there's 250 people on a map and there's tribes of 6 maximum, do the math. That's a lot more tribes, a lot more targets. You are actually hidden in numbers. You have safety in numbers. The likelihood that you're going to be hit is much lower. Bigger pop would ensure survival by numbers alone, simply put. For certain groups of people trying to play this game, their tribes are too big for smalls and too small for bigs. For instance, our group is about 10 to 12 people strong. That is, I've been told, not enough to play a big man tribe server, because we would just get destroyed by groups that are like 100 plus that literally are on constantly. And we're too big, obviously, for small man tribes, because small man tribes are 6. So we're kind of in a really tough spot here. Again, if they increase the population of the server, we would be able to possibly play on big man servers, but I think if they had a medium-sized tribe limit, that'd be better. So right now, it is small man tribes of 6, and then it's basically unlimited. So I think a middle ground of like 10, maybe 12, 15, somewhere in the middle between 6 and literally fucking unlimited would be a really good thing to have. Now, the biggest problem that the 70-man server creates is it basically pushes people into a very specific game cycle so far, at least for Survival Ascended so far, okay? It is the alpha, server, tribe, and quit game cycles, just to put it in very layman's terms, okay? It encourages people to essentially no life, become jobless, and to grind endlessly once a new map comes out to win the server, okay? If you win the server, you're the alpha tribe. Everyone else has to either, submit to you, or you just get raided and you have to find a new server. But the problem is, again, it all accumulates on itself, okay? There aren't that many servers to begin with as well, okay? So if you're playing on a server, a small man tribe server, 6 people, and you don't spend 48 hours straight endlessly grinding continuously, you are most likely going to get kicked off the server. You're going to get raided and kicked off the server, and then where do you go? You have to start on a new server that's been already out for a couple weeks, where there's an alpha on that one, so you have nowhere to go essentially, and there aren't that many servers to begin with. And the fact that there are no wipes or are no resets on these official servers is also a problem, because when you have a new wipe, the population spikes every time. This whole 70 pop max server limit is like, if you add that plus how people play the game, how meta works and how alphas work, those two things combined push people to literally not play the game, because you have to either no life the game for 2 weeks straight to gain control of a server, or you're kicked off and then you have no server to go to, because you're just going to be going from server to server where people have been playing for weeks on end, and you are so far behind that you have no chance of actually surviving on a server. So and there aren't that many servers to begin with anyways. So everything about 70 pop max server, literally plus the meta, pushes you to basically stop playing. Another thing with the 70 pop max server is you can literally be population like popped out of a server doing a raid. For instance, you know, with these servers, the first couple weeks, they're basically always at maximum. Okay, there's a lot of people playing on the servers. So if you're being raided, for instance, and you have some people on, some people not, you might not be able to even get on to like defend a raid, which is so absurd to me, coming from games like Rust and Conan the Barbarian. Again, never had issues getting to a server at all, let alone during a raid or when I really needed to get on. It is so mined. I would be up a fucking wall if my base was getting raided and I was really not able to get into the server because they have a max of 70. Like, at least let me fail to defend my base. It's one thing for me to fail defending my base. It's a whole other thing if I can't even get into the server to actually defend my base. That to me is absolutely infuriating and has no defense. Another thing that this game cycle and meta encourages is teaming. Now, teaming is not supposed to be allowed. Teaming really works with really small man tribes, but it can happen with big mans as well. Basically, two tribes are not supposed to work together. Now, this doesn't work. People do it all the time. There's no real way to stop them from doing it because it's almost impossible to prove. But again, when you have such small servers, teaming makes more sense. If you had bigger servers, for instance, like if you had bigger servers like 150, teaming would not be much of an issue because there'd just be more people anyways. But when the servers are so small to begin with, teaming is a real issue. If you have two tribes teaming together that are like the strongest on the server, there's not enough of everyone else to counter that. So you're basically done for. And again, I think 150 would solve almost all these problems literally overnight, would change the meta, change the game overnight, which is strange to me they don't do it, because on unofficial servers, they go up to 150. Now, I would actually push for like 200, 250 maybe. I think 150 would be a really good starting point, and I'd love to see how the game changes. But I think so many of these problems would be fixed literally over, like if they do a patch, boom, fixed overnight. The next thing is the just the ping, the lag, the connection is absolutely atrocious. I have never played, again, I've played Rust, I've played Conan Barbarian, I've played other online games with way more people in the servers. I have never dealt with a game that has such a bad ping, such a bad connection between all the players. It is actually infuriating. I can remember playing this game literally screaming at the top of my lungs that like for the third time I can't open a door. Because in this game, if you play Ark Survival Ascended, in this game, every 5 to 10 minutes, and I literally mean every 5 to 10 minutes, the game will stop working for about 5 seconds. You can't open anything, you can't open a door, you can't walk anywhere, you're just frozen. The game is frozen for 5 seconds, and then it rubber bands you back those 5 seconds, it just goes back, just reverts back. This happens every 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, I've never dealt with a game like that, an online game like that has this problem. There's clearly something wrong with the server connection between all the players. The ping also is always terrible. Now you have NA pings, which I play on, always over 200 ping. Always, never under 200 ping. It is absolutely atrocious. I do not understand how these connections could be this bad on such a massively popular game. It is baffling. And you could also be kicked out of the server sometimes. Like you'll see, you know, like I said, those pauses, those freezes that happen every 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes, not that often, but probably once or twice a day, those will go past 5 seconds. So if that freeze lasts like 10 or 15 seconds, you're getting kicked from the server. You're getting kicked. And again, if you include the fact that you're getting kicked a couple times a day, plus the fact you have to queue for 2 hours, like, again, it just makes you not want to play. Like I don't want to wait 2 hours to play to get in, then get kicked for the lag, and then have to queue for another 2 hours. One of the last things is just the general unstableness and unpolishedness, that's a word, of the game right now. I understand it's a kind of early access game, but they didn't figure out how physics or collision works. So the physics and collision of this game, I can't even really talk about it. They're not really in the game. There are no physics or collision mechanics in the game, which is why you have a huge problem with shit like meshing, which is when you like for instance, if you have a raft, if you want to hide your stuff on a raft, what you do is you push your raft literally into a rock so people can't get into that rock, for instance. So The physics and the collisions just are not existent in the game. How things interact are just terrible, especially when you're around like dinos and tames for whatnot. It is absolutely infuriating. If you include the terrible physics or really non-existent physics and collision mechanics plus the lag, you will be absolutely barking in your party about how annoying this shit is. You are fighting this game more than you are fighting anything else. Okay, you are fighting this game's terrible design choices and mechanics more than anything else. You are fighting this game's lag more than anything else. And then some other miscellaneous stuff, really, like just getting stuck and not being able to move for no reason. Literally no reason, getting killed or getting knocked out for no logical reason. Like literally nothing was shown on your screen and you're just dead. And just stupid shit with collision again, like being teleported halfway across the map if you collide with objects incorrectly. So, you know, those problems I might be fixed. Maybe, you know, it's an early access. They can always fix those problems. But again, I think, you know, fixing these servers connections, that's possible. You guys can do that. Wild card. You guys have the smarts to improve ping because it's fucking unbearable. You guys can change population to 150. You guys can include a physics and collision mechanic system that actually makes sense in the world. You guys can stop meshing. Like the thing is, they've designed all the objects in the game to mesh through each other. So they can obviously design those objects to not be meshed throughable, basically. Like you have to flesh out these objects so that other objects cannot go into those objects, okay? We've seen in other games, it's certainly possible. They're certainly capable of doing it. So much of this game, if you were to play it, makes me feel like it was made by an indie dev group. It's like their first game because of how unstable and unpolished it really is. I know it's an early access. I get it's an early access, but still, there are certain things like not having collision physics correct or even in the game at all, which are just really unacceptable, especially for a developer group that has such a massive audience. You know, tons of people play this game. It's a massive audience on both console and PC. They should be able to, even in early access, come out with a game, because again, this game is not necessarily new. It's Ark 1.5. It's just basically a graphics upgrade. So they should be able to fix these problems because they already have the base of it. So they should be able to fix them quite quickly. All of these things make this game incredibly difficult to play. Like I said, you are fighting this game's design and just fucking lack of polish and stability 80 to 90% of the time. The rest of 20%, you might have some fun. But you are fighting this game every single step of the way. If they fix those, but we keep coming back because there's fun moments. This game has a lot of potential. If they just fix the stupid design choices, they just fix the simple things, if they just polish a little bit, this game could be so great. And we're gonna keep coming back, obviously, to play it. But again, we come back for the good moments, not for the bad. And unfortunately, right now, most of this game is bad. But there's so much hope for this game. They just fix the little things. We can start making good progress.